What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, Pete's Carport, and today we're going to dive back into the 1995 Mercedes S500 w140, and oh man, has it been some time since we've done anything on this car. In fact, I haven't even driven it in over a month, maybe two, because we got that nasty tap while I was driving, and most likely that's created by the cam oil tubes or cam oilers. There's a few different names that people call them, but what we need to do today is get this car down off this ramp. I'm going to reverse it so I have a nice area right here to work and just kind of back it up. Then we're going to go ahead and pop off the valve cover gasket just on the driver's side. Don't worry, we're going to have a video where we're going to do both sides, but I want to work on just the driver's side. I think that's where our tap is coming from, and I want to get the valve cover off today and see which ones are broken so we can kind of get an idea of what's creating this noise. Then we're going to look at our tensioners for our timing belt. We're also going to, I have a valve cover gasket, so we'll be replacing that as well, and most likely replacing all of those tubes, if not just the broken ones. I haven't decided yet, but let's get this thing down off of here and take a look at underneath the valve cover. So after about 30 minutes of finagling with the car, I got the car where I need it positioned, hood up, and let's get started. Now, before we start, I've never taken the valve covers off this car. I've done spark plugs and other things, so I'm guessing it's kind of straightforward. Keep in mind, this did change when they went to, I think in 96, this is a 95, they went to coil pack, so that's going to be a little bit different. These valve covers just have your spark plug wires and spark plugs in them, as opposed to the coil pack. So let me go ahead and set this up, and we'll go ahead and take our cover off. That's how we're going to start. Alright, and you can see we can access our valve cover bolts here. These look like Torx bolts, and I'll fill you in on exactly what tools I need to get all of this stuff off. Let me go ahead and get set up. So after removing the air box and the hoses to get that out of the way, there's a cover for the spark plug. It's got a little Phillips head turn screw here. We're going to pull that out and out of the way. And I was wrong, it's not Torx, that's definitely an Allen key along here, up in here, and it's a 5mm from what I'm testing here. And what I'm going to do is use a socket wrench with an attachment and go ahead and pop these loose. Wasn't super tight. I'll find out the torque specs for you, but it doesn't seem like it was torqued down too tight. And so let me see around in here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6, 7, 8, I'm guessing, and then 9, 10, I'm guessing. I gotta reach around. Hopefully there's not too many back in that area there. Oh man, that was not an easy one. I'm afraid it's gonna be a little task to get that one back in. Okay, so next thing I did is went ahead and labeled the spark plug wires. You can use tape like I did there, or write it directly on the head of the plug. I did both, or plug wire. I did both just in case something falls off. And you're gonna wanna pull your spark plug wires right out. Once those are out of the way, we got a little air valve here. Take that off. And now we should be able to just pull our valve cover out. So, like I said, this is the first time I've ever removed the valve covers on this car, and it looks like I'm gonna have to remove that fuel rail. I was hoping I could slide the valve cover up underneath it. You wanna make sure you relieve pressure. There's a few different ways you can do it, but there is a valve right here. You just take the cap off of it, and you press down, and that's going to relieve the fuel pressure in the fuel rail. And then you can go ahead and slowly undo your fuel line, which is what I was doing, and you're still going to have some pressure in there. And you'll see some of the fuel kind of seep out. Go slowly. And these are our oil tubes here. This is what oils the cams and keeps that tick from happening. Okay guys, it's a new day and we're going to dive into replacing the bad parts, but I want to go over what needed to be done to get to this point, and then what we're going to be doing and what we're going to be looking for in a bad cam oiler. Now, I said this before, this is the first time I've ever pulled this valve cover off, and I didn't even do any research on how to repair this until last night. And I did that because I wanted to approach this just like you would do at home if you were trying to DIY this and you don't have a ton of knowledge on vehicles. And I really like doing that because then I can see some of the problems I would run into that I might have avoided if I would have gotten online, read a forum, and maybe you didn't see that forum. So one of the main things I want to point out is one of the bolts that holds the valve cover on is longer than the rest, and that one is going to... So I accidentally pointed to the wrong bolt. The arrow is pointing to the correct one all the way to the left. The rest are all the same size, so just take note of that if you take your valve cover off and throw all your screws into one thing like I did. Now the next thing is you want to make sure you air blow out or dust or vacuum all of the dirt and debris that's going to be on this valve cover and the surrounding area. I actually did that. I used a blower, just did not put that on film. One thing I did not do is cover up my throttle body, or mass airflow is what you're really trying to protect there. So make sure you do these kind of things. Now next, once you get this valve cover off, there's a couple things that can create the noise. The first thing is going to be if one of these is really, really loose, it can be rattling up and down. Now that's pretty common. You won't hear it as much as you would a broken or blowout. So one of these could just be broken. You could see a crack right in front of your eyes. If you opened it up, you might be able to see a large crack or a piece missing. In my case, I checked all of them and I have what's called the blowout out the back side here. So the end cap here blew off, and what I need to do is figure out where that piece went and at least replace that one. A couple other things. When you have your valve cover off, you want to make sure you go and inspect your camshafts. Look at your loads, make sure there's no pitting, excessive wearing, burn marks, and you can see on ours they look very, very good. These can get worn down, and you'll be able to notice one might be worn down more, and that means you have issues underneath with your valves. So you want to make sure you do look at that. And then the second thing is, obviously we had one of our tubes bust off. If we have a broken one or a busted off one, we want to find that piece, and the only way I'm going to be able to do that is by probably vacuuming this out, because I did not see it when I took the valve cover off. So we're going to go ahead and vacuum that out, and while we're doing that, we're going to clean off any engine sludge that's all caught up in the grooves and stuff like that. And to do that, we'll just use a microfiber towel to get up in there. You might as well do that while you got your valve cover off to help maintenance for the future. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you what I mean by being blown out. You can see this is opened up on the end there, and that is supposed to be sealed off. I'm going to be going down and getting a metal one. We'll look at that one too, because that should be all sealed completely across. And then you've got gaskets right here. So those gaskets can become worn out and loose, and this can rattle. It won't give you as loud of a noise as if you have a crack or a broken piece, but it can give you a noise, and that eventually will wear out and stop working properly. So that's why it's suggested that you just change them all out at the same time. Like I said, I could only get, they only had 2 available. I ordered 1 because I figured why change 2 of them out. I'm going to go ahead and order a whole set, but ones I could find were very expensive, and the time frame on them was very long. I did go ahead and look at my timing chain guide. It looks great, so I wasn't too concerned with that, but that is also another thing you need to make sure it's not broken or anything if you put the car back together. So let's go ahead now and get our new piece and come back and put it in. Okay guys, new part came in. There's the part number. Now I know a few of you said not to use Euro. I'm not sure exactly why, but they had it readily available at AutoZone. Got it next day, so it was 20 bucks. Can't beat that. Let's go ahead and open it up, because this one is the metal one. It does feel very light, so it might be not as heavy duty as the other ones on the market. And I did notice they capped off the end, which I was hoping it would be one solid piece. But these gaskets look really, really good, so I know that's going to help out a lot. All right, guys, let's go ahead and pop this in the car and we'll talk about torque spec. Okay, like I mentioned, you want to do these one at a time if you're doing all of them, and make sure you notate which one of these brackets goes where, because they do have different part numbers on them, so obviously they could be different, and you want to make sure you put them back exactly where you took them off. So best way to do that, set up a cardboard, like draw out the part that you're taking off of, and then kind of put the parts where they go. That way you know exactly how they go back on. A lot of people do that, poke little holes and push your screws down into it or your bolts. And obviously we want to make sure we put this part on the same way with that little cap and that blew off facing this direction. And we'll go ahead, pop that in there snugly. Grab our pieces, put them back on exactly how they went. And we'll tighten it up, and we'll play around with torque on this too, because I have some suspicion that we need to go tighter than that 10 Newton meters. Okay guys, so ironically my torque wrench is a 1/2 inch drive, and I went down and bought an adapter because I don't have an 11 millimeter in a 1/2 inch drive. I have an 11 millimeter in a 3/8 inch drive. I bought the wrong adapter, so what my buddy said is he only snugged these up real good, and what I'm going to do is kind of gauge it off of the ones that are on there, and I can feel how tight they are. I can't turn these anymore, so I'm going to kind of do the same thing here. Once I feel it kind of clamp down, just going to keep it there. Just don't want to over tighten. I'll kind of go back to the other one and back to this one until I feel comfortable with where it's at, and that's kind of how I'm going to gauge it. Please leave in the comments if you guys know if 10 Newton meters is correct. That's not a lot of torque, and I feel like that could cause some rattling, so I'm going to go with the judgment of just tightening it to kind of match up with the ones that are already on here. Like I said, let me know in the comments. I'll go ahead and snug this down, and then we'll work on the valve cover gasket. Okay guys, now moving on to valve cover gasket. So one thing you want to make sure you get is a good valve cover gasket. This is a Mercedes replacement part from FCP Euro. Let me put the part number on there in case you want to get this exact same one. Like I said, FCP gives a lifetime warranty. I suggest getting this from there since you could be changing this out a few times in the lifetime of the car if you get leaks. This is a nice rubber gasket. It's an exact replacement, and make sure you get the one that has your seals here. I think they're called cam seals. They're where your spark plug wires and your spark plugs go down into. If I pull the one off that was on here, very brittle, very dried out, so you want to make sure you definitely change those out. I think I had a valve cover leak anyways, so we're going to go ahead and put our new gasket in there. It's very self-explanatory, slides right into the grooves. You want to line everything up. You can lubricate it first to get it to slide in a little bit better. Some people throw them in hot water to soften them up. And you want to try to clean off the inside area the best you can. I'm going to use a little acetone, wipe it out, pop my gasket in, and we'll get it back on the car. Oh, one more thing I noticed, probably done before this valve cover gasket, because there was gasket sealant put into each one of these grooves down here as well too that I saw. So make sure you get that scraped off if somebody put that. I don't know if it's necessary. I'm not going to add it because, like I said, we're going to be popping this valve cover off once again in the near future to change out all of those plastic ones for metal tubes, and so I don't want to waste my time doing that and have an issue. So we're going to keep it the way that I read online to do it, and that would be with no gasket sealer. But if you guys know any different, let me know in the comments. Alright, we're going to go ahead and slide our valve cover back in with the new gasket. I already went ahead and cleaned down all of the edges, made sure no gasket material or anything like that was on there. You do the same at home, make sure it's nice and dry and clean. That way your gasket sticks really well. And then I'm going to just slide this in. I'm going to see which is the best way. Okay, you can just slide it right up underneath that whole piping there and all the way down. Remember, we took our gas line off. We don't want to forget we have to put that back on, as well as our breather valve that's right here. So right over here is our breather valve that we're going to have to stick back on, and our fuel line right here. So let me go ahead and get our screws. We'll start putting the bolts back on to our valve cover. Make sure you tighten them down in a sequence, and I'll point that out to you guys. Okay, I went ahead and hand tightened each bolt using this tool here, and just for reference, this is where the longer bolt goes, not here like I originally thought. Remember, it goes here. The rest are all the same size, and you want to hand tighten them down at first, and then you want to use a sequence. We're going to use a different sequence because we want to tighten that back one up first since it's the hardest to get to. So I'm going to kind of go 1, 2 down the middle here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 down here, and kind of go in that order, tightening them up. Now, I don't have the torque wrench available for this type of Allen key, but we're going to go with 9 Newton meters is what you should be doing at home. We're going to go with a pretty snug hand tightening because 9 Newton meters is not a whole lot. Let's go ahead and get set up, and I'm going to do this. And now the moment of truth. Let's start it up. And that's it, guys. No more tapping noise. Before you would hear that crazy tap coming from all along here. So looks like we resolved the situation, but we're not done yet. We are going to crack that thing back open in a short time, replace all of those tubes out, and we'll do the other side as well. Oh man, I love this car. And guys, I forgot to mention, I have a new sticker coming out to support the channel. I'm going to be ordering those hopefully before the end of the month. I'll let you know more information about them. It's all about saving this awesome car, the W140, restoring them, keeping them on the road. And I know there's going to be a whole nother wave of classics, and this is going to be amongst the top of them. So look for those stickers coming out. Join me on Instagram, support the channel. You guys have an awesome day, a blessed week. I'll catch you on the next video. I can't wait to take this thing down, clean it down, and go for a fun ride again.